The calling of the roll, majority council.
Thank you. Kuhn is excused. Reedy.
Here.
Feeney.
Here.
LaRillier. Here. McLaughlin.
Here.
Plotski. Here. Ricard.
Present.
Bergdorf.
Here.
And Pearlie.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Item number 1.
Is approving the previous meeting minutes.
Take a motion. Mr. Feeney, second. Mr. Ricard. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
We're going to skip down to 21, which was withdrawn. 22 is authorizing an agreement with Axon Enterprise regarding digital evidence storage and management. Judge Herrick is here this evening.
Thank you.
Evening, Judge Herrick.
Good evening. Two relatively simple things, I believe. Back in July, I appeared in front of you and requested authorization to change from PDCMS to Axon. This request for approval is to add 7 additional users, to licenses and users to that program. It is completely state-funded through ILS. This is for our discovery, receipt, the ability to review it, and then storage.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Bergdorf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Judge, is this a common database that our other law enforcement organizations?
This is, yeah, the DA had switched to it before we did.
So we're going to have a consistent
Yes,
product across all
absolutely.
platforms. That's great. Thank you.
I will take a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Feeney, second. Mr. Bergdorf. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
Item number 23 is a request for legislative approval of an extension of our Council at First Appearance 3 grant. It expired, it would have expired December 31 of 24. We have ILS approval already to extend it through this current year, so it will expire, if you approve it, 12/31/25. That will allow us to utilize the balance of that. It's a $750,000 grant over 3 years, and we have about 250,000 remaining. This was on the agenda for last month, and we pulled it because it had a specific proposal for its use, which had not been agreed to by our office or the county executive. So it's back on this month just to extend it and not for specific use. We'll come back to the legislature for that at a later date.
Thank you. Any questions? I will take a motion. Mr. Feeney, second.
Second.
Mr. Ricard. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous?
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Item 24 is requesting that the New York State Liquor Authority change the hours of sale of wine and liquor in Albany County. Cam Sagan is here from the executive's office.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. This is a resolution asking the New York State Liquor Authority to expand liquor store hours. Currently, there are a number of surrounding counties, namely Greene, Saratoga, and Schoharie counties that have the hours allowed that go to the maximum of what is allowed under the New York State Liquor Authority law. So this would expand those hours to match those of Greene, Saratoga, and Schoharie. The way we see it is this is pro-business, this is pro-tax revenue, and it just makes the lives of our residents a lot easier when there's a more uniform policy. If you live in Albany County, you don't have to go over to a neighboring county to run to the liquor store to grab a bottle of wine after you get out of work, 10 o'clock on a weekday. So I believe this body passed an expanded version of liquor store hours last year to coincide with the holiday season at the end of the year. I believe that, based on what has occurred since then, I think that it only makes sense to expand it further, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Zagan. Any questions? Mr. Bergdorf?
Thank you. Has anybody from the liquor industry opined on this?
Not to my knowledge, no. I think the average business operator would say that they're constrained by the arbitrary times that exist right now.
A number of years ago, when this was in the forefront, there was concern by a bunch of small liquor stores that may have been involved in strip mall operations, that their lease says that they have to be open as long as their hours allow. So you may have small businesses that are completing their business by 10, this may impact their labor and stuff. But if they haven't come forward and nobody has said anything, that may no longer be an issue.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything on that. Is that what kind of regulation is that stating that they have to be open for?
It's the leases in the strip
Oh, I
malls.
see, okay.
So that, they may say the strip mall is open till 11, and you must be open till 11 unless you're constrained by law.
Okay.
So they're, for a small business, adding extra labor is
Sure.
expensive. But if nobody's come forward,
Okay.
I'm less concerned. I just want to see if anyone did come in.
On a
Ms.
similar-
Plotsky.
Thank you, Chairman. On a similar vein, when we talked about this before, I heard that small operators that wanted to be on the counter, they would feel obligated to be open on Sundays now and essentially not get a day off, because there are some that are solo or just 1 and 2 people.
Yeah, it's hard for me to believe that that would be the majority of businesses.
No,
I-
it's
yeah,
not.
I-
No, it
Yeah, I
just
think that
means
might be
that-
anecdotal, but I do think, if you ask the average business owner if they want to be constrained by government for how many hours they are allowed to be open, I think most of them would say, I don't want to be constrained by that. And it does seem as though these hours are somewhat arbitrary. And I think it's a little outdated the way some of New York's laws are as they relate to ABC laws.
Would towns still be able to regulate within this? Like town of Bethlehem, no later than 9 PM or something?
That's a good question. I believe the authority is, I would have to look into that. I'm not entirely sure.
Mr. Feeney?
Yeah, I just want to say that, I sponsored the bill last year to expand the hours during the holiday season. And I spoke to a lot of liquor store owners, and a lot of them had said to me, why are we only doing it during the holiday season?
Yeah.
And I said, well, it was kind of a little bit of a trial balloon, see how it would go. But most of the liquor store owners I spoke to were in favor of those extended hours.
Okay,
So I think that they'll be in favor of this too.
that's great.
From my
Yeah.
experience. Anyway.
Mr. Hurley?
Just to clarify, this is permissive, it's not required, right?
Correct. Yeah. So that, they could operate within that time restraint, but they could obviously be more restrictive. So I think it's just leaving it to them to decide.
Thanks.
I will take a motion.
I'll move it.
Mr. Feeney, second.
Second.
Mr. Ricard, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron.
All right, going back in the agenda, item 2 is table at request of sponsor. Item 3 is requiring programmatic information in request for legislative action and codifying existing practices. Mr. Conway's here this evening.
Hey, yes. If you remember, we brought this resolution last year in front of the law committee and it was tabled. And we've been working with the chair's office, the executive's office, and the majority office to, we made some amendments to it. And we were hoping to revisit codifying the request for legislative action practices. So we made some amendments to it to provide more guidance on what can or can't be practically applied. So we're hoping to revisit this resolution now.
Majority Council, please.
With regard to the content of this resolution, it is something that the majority office controls in its entirety at this point in time. We are opposed to any codification of the process because we like the flexibility to change as needed now, which we were able to do just recently without any problems. We've never had any problems getting information from the executive, and we've never had the Republicans ask us for any information that we were unable to give to them, so I don't believe this is necessary.
Well, it's
And-
more about being prepared for the committee meetings is what we're really going for. It's not about, like,
Well, RLAs are for resolution requests, so
Yeah.
we put together the agendas in my office, and our office is the only one that does that. We create the request for legislative action form also to reflect what it is we need. So we are not interested in having that codified because that will make us lose flexibility that is needed to make changes as needed in order to get whatever it is we need at any given time. We've offered to previously have the Republicans reach out to us with any requests they have. We haven't received any requests, so my understanding is that none have been made, but
well,
we're
requests
happy
are
to.
questions at the meeting, at the committee meetings, we're always asking questions for more information, who's gonna be affected by this.
Yeah,
It's a lot
and of
money
course,
that's
you
being
still
spent.
could, but since it's the majority office that controls this, we're not interested in having this. And I've told your council that previously, I'm not this council, but your prior council, and I haven't heard anything from him in many months on this issue, so I'm not sure where the changes came from or whatnot, but this isn't something that the majority office is interested in having codified.
So can we put that in the request, what we're looking for now, like, as, James, do you have more input there, sorry?
Yeah, so I understand that you control it now. You probably haven't heard from the previous council because I think he's enjoying retirement and so.
Well, I know, but I hadn't heard from him in many months prior to his retirement. We had a conversation on this twice last year, and then I never heard from him again.
So to Legislator Conway's point, so, I mean, the big thing that we're changing here is I've only been to a couple committee meetings now, but every single question seems to start and end with, how many people are you serving and what do you serve now? Are you open to putting that into, it still stays within your control, are you open to putting that in the standard RLA? I think that's the large portion of what we're looking to achieve.
I don't think that information is relevant many of the times because it's only relevant for certain committees and certain times. So that would require the executive to give, and Cam can certainly step in and opine on this if he'd like, since he handles the RLA process on the other side. I don't think it's beneficial to, as a blank slate, say we want this on every occasion when we don't want it on every occasion, and that would require the executive's office to jump through hoops to get that information for a variety of things, and us to sort through the information because we read every single thing that the executive hands over to us. So it wouldn't really be beneficial in the majority of occasions because you in committees, your members ask once or twice for certain types of information. If they have a question for a certain item, we can absolutely ask for it in that case, but I think it would just be overly burdensome to require both our office to read and the executive's office to provide this information when it's not necessary in the majority of cases.
Yeah, I mean, to
I don't
jump
think
in.
it's burdensome to see where hundreds of thousands of dollars are going.
Let's
Who it's
not have
impacting.
too much of a free-for-all, everyone. Mr. Sagan, please go ahead.
Yeah, only because Rebecca called me over, but I do think that I think the one thing that comes up a lot is like public roadways, paving projects, anything DPW related, culverts. I think when you think about even some of the items that have already come up tonight, there's just so much that what you're asking for doesn't really apply to, but I do think if the desire is to have departments provide that when it's applicable more often and make that informal policy, then that's fine. But I will say I get questions from the Republican staff clarifying RLA language, and it's very rare that I get a question on how many residents that this serves, how many residents it served in a previous year. So, well, you know, we're always happy to give more information and ask our departments for it, but you have to think of the practical nature of the request, and it's going to be a department coming to me during every RLA cycle saying, do we need to provide this information? Do we need to dig into this? And it is adding more work to our departments and the county executive staff just to go through the sort of mental exercise of, does this apply to this RLA for every RLA? So I understand it doesn't seem like it's asking a lot of us, but it is, and it's just, I think the vast majority of RLAs, to Rebecca's point, this doesn't apply to. So if you guys need information, please ask us, and we'll get it to you.
I'll go to Mr. Bergdorf in just a moment, but I will say, so this was brought up, and we did table it. Doesn't seem like there's been much follow-up from the minority council in bringing this back up. And we have a process that, works with the executive's office and the majority's office, and seems to work for the legislature as a whole. So, in my opinion, this looked like it's adding on inefficiency and red tape and frankly, government overreach to a process that is not needed. So I don't see any reason why we would not table this again, since it seems like the same thing is being brought up.
You actually can't table it again, yeah.
Oh, well, I would recommend moving it with a negative recommendation if we can't table it again. But that being said, Mr. Bergdorf, please go ahead.
Before we get to the point of tabling it, it strikes me that most of this information is legitimate to ask. And having participated in these committees for 10 years, somebody comes here and says, we want to spend $4 million for transportation for handicapped kids for schools. And the first question somebody asks is, how many kids are we talking about? Could you give us some details on the trend? Is this going up or down? That is certainly a legitimate request for something where you're expending, $4.5 million. I think if there is parts of this information that is not applicable, you can write in NA, not applicable. But, especially, everybody's talking about transparency now and how you spend money. And I would hate for us to be in a position where we say, well, we have flexibility, we do what we want to do, and we don't want to lose that flexibility, so we don't want to tell you, and we don't want to be transparent. So, I don't know if there's language that you can put in here to create a clause where if something is not applicable, it's not applicable, but certainly every one of your department heads understands the question and says, yeah, we have that information back at the office. Let us get it for you. But it would be good to know and be able to discuss that when you're actually at a committee meeting and ready to discuss it. So I don't know, is that something that we could consider putting in some,
Well, I can tell you that I attend every single committee meeting for the legislature, obviously. Rarely does the minority caucus ask that question, and when they do, they're always given the opportunity to get it in writing. I can also tell you there's no version of this codification that the majority office would be interested in seeing put into place, so we would recommend that it would be put out with a negative recommendation.
well, that's great to know that the majority has no interest in it. So
We're happy to give you any information you require, as we always have and always will. However, this would tie our hands in an unnecessary way that is a government overreach. But thank you.
Just what spurred this was last year, my first 3 committee meetings. Legislator Robinson asked the question, how many people does this impact the chair, Commissioner Rotano? Like every time he was asking about it. So I'm not the only one that's asking for more information. It's Legislator Robinson, and happens at every committee meeting, I feel like.
And that is on one occasion that he asked for that. So
No, it's not.
minority caucus asked these questions occasionally. I remember Patty Lockhart asked for it at social services on some months, but it's not something where for every item, every month, it's necessary at all. If you have a certain question about a certain item, we're absolutely happy to get it to you and always have been. We've never turned down a request for information, and we never would, and I don't believe the executive has or would either. So we're happy to be as transparent as you would like, but to shore up the amount of work that 2 different departments have to do when you could just ask a question one time, it seems kind of ridiculous, honestly.
It's kind of that we do
Mr.
have.
Burley.
I think, and far be it for me from interrupt when the majority is seeking to stop government overreach, but I think there's some sort of alternative objectives that would be achieved by this. One is to get the agencies to be of the state of mind of, and be top of mind in thinking, how many people does this impact? How many people are we serving here, right? The fear being that we may be doing a lot of this and spending a lot of money and spinning a lot of wheels for a relatively small number of people. And also the public has the right to know that information. I don't question your responsiveness when asked. I will question your apparently sort of anecdotal, or it happens rarely. In my experience, and I can appreciate the point about it perhaps if it's too broad or if there's not the opportunity for an individual department to say this is not applicable. Like for instance, in my experience on the Conservation Committee, do you have to assess how many people would be affected by a clean air? Right, that would be an example where it would not be appropriate. But my experience on social services, I would say at basically every meeting, we ask, how many people does this impact? And a lot of times the answer is, well, we'll get back to you on that. And that can slow the process, it sort of gums the process up. So I don't know what people are afraid of here.
Mr. Chairman, one last comment.
Mr. Burdorf, then Chair Cunningham, and then I'll take a motion.
It was pointed out to me that at the request of, I don't know if it was the county executive's office or some of the dialogue with majority council, when they met with them, there was a question of everything was not applicable to everything. So if you see in number 7 here, where it's underlined, the beginning of the clause says, where applicable and practical. So you have the ability to say, NA. So I'm not quite sure what the problem is here. The type of contract, the budgetary impact, local shares, is there a mandate? If so, by who? Previous legislative history, term of the contract, potential impact on pending legislation, the number of persons served, and justification in support. Now, most of these things are in the RLAs. And when we originally met with the county executive's office, they sort of welcomed it because it was going to be a structure that their department heads could follow for a uniform RLA. And if you do have these circumstances where if it's not applicable or practical, you can put in NA, what is really the problem here? I'm not getting it.
So we'll go to our chair, but I will ask, does anyone on the law committee have any other comments or questions before we open it up to folks not on the committee? Chair Cunningham.
So I think you just made an argument, Paul, for all of the vast information that is on the RLA. And I think what we've heard tonight that I will amplify is that the majority office is very comfortable, and I think our side is very comfortable with the wealth of information that is on the RLA and does not see a need to add this information. With that said, I've been to a lot of committee meetings over my 10 years as well, and I don't recall times that the individual sitting at the end of the table is ever stonewalling or ever not giving information. In fact, the opposite. We just had a meeting where we couldn't get our aging commissioner kind of away from the table. She had lots of extra information. So I hardly think that we have a problem with transparency. We don't. We get a lot of information. We ask a lot of questions. Paul, you ask 2 or 3 questions every single committee meeting that I'm not arguing with. Many times they illuminate me on issues I care about. But this seems like it's it's a resolution in search of a problem to solve. I don't see the problem to solve. I think that Majority Council's office has made it clear that they're good with the RLA. I think we're good with the RLA, and I think that enough said.
Thank you. Ms. Lockhart?
I've been on here, I think this is my 5th term, and I've been on social services that whole time. And thank you for recognizing that I ask those questions, because I do, and a lot of them, and mostly because, I'll speak from social services standpoint, we spend an awful lot of money, and it's money well spent on a lot of needy people. That's not the question. But just as a legislator, I would like to know how those programs are really doing. And we don't really always know. Yes, the commissioners have always been very gracious. When I ask the question, I'll get you the information, they do. But it doesn't always extend to the rest of the legislature, that information. And I'm speaking for myself, but what I've seen over the years, my work out of the legislature and in, that sometimes we have to look at some of these programs and say, you know, we don't want to do away with it, but maybe we need to do something different. Because we're either not serving enough, or the recidivism isn't great. And I think I know I asked in my first term, if we could just have the department heads include in their narratives how many people, no matter what committee it is. I was speaking mostly about social services and mental health. But, you know, and that would be a way to at least give the information about it. So I just wanted to put that out there. A lot of times, again, our department heads are more than willing, but I like it here so we can talk about it and not wait to the next committee meeting or something for all legislators to benefit from the information.
Thank you. We will take a very, very brief comment from Mr. Sagan.
I just want to respond to a couple of things. First of all, this has nothing to do with transparency. I want to make that clear. Our departments are not hiding anything, and they never have. But two, a lot of the programs that we're talking about, especially as you bring up social services, these are state and federal mandated programs.
That's a problem.
So, I mean, I'm not saying that there's a problem or not, but these are people, the people that work day in, day out in our social service department, they're eligibility examiners, many of them. They determine eligibility based on state and federal guidelines. So if you hypothetically were to get the numbers that maybe you're looking for and you're pointing to some sort of problem with, you know, rising numbers or trying to find out if they're effective or not, which may very well be out of context, but what do we do? What does the county do about that? We have no control over that. So I just want to put things into context when we're talking about the numbers and what they mean and what they don't mean.
Can I just
Very
clarify?
briefly, Ms. Lockhart.
One of my other reasons for wanting those numbers is I know people in Child Protective Social Services. I've worked with them for decades for my other job. They do good work. I don't think this legislature knows, I shouldn't say this, but what they really do. And I think sometimes that information also lets people know what they do on this committee or any committee. So I think there's two sides to it, and I don't think they're hiding anything either.
Thank you. I will take a motion.
Move it out with a negative recommendation.
Second, Mr. Ricard. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
The ayes have it. I will take a motion to adjourn. Oh, I apologize.
Nope. Items 4 through 15 are tabled at request of sponsor. Item 16 is local law number S for 2024. Local law of the County of Albany, New York, amending the Albany County Charter, and local law number 8 for 1993 as amended to adjust the monetary threshold of the Board of Contract Administration. Joanne Cunningham is here tonight.
Yes, so this was the subject of a riveting public hearing last night. Just kidding. But this is a modernization that was a Charter Reform Commission recommendation that, if you notice, I've been kind of reviewing them and presenting them in different resolutions. And this would simply take the 1993, I believe, established level and trend it forward to inflation. And then every year would use the inflation factor. I mean, essentially, the CAB process is reviewing their already budgeted items. So there's nothing in there that the legislature has not already approved of in the budget. It's just a threshold question, and I think it would give us more time, the committee process and other, to focus on things that are above the threshold. So it's just modernizing the threshold to trend it forward. And I welcome, the CAB meetings, any one of us can attend. Obviously, there's a requirement that I attend. I do every single one. And the county exec's office and the controller. And, they're public information sessions. They are well-attended. People spend the appropriate time reviewing them. It's kind of a similar process to the legislature. So I'd like to move it out tonight.
Thank you, Chair. Any questions? Take a motion.
I'll move it.
Mr. Feeney, second.
Second.
Ms. Plotsky, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
Items 17 and 18 are tabled at request of sponsor. Item 19 is amending Chapter 364 of the Albany County Code to expand the Albany County flag policy. Ms. Lockhart is here this evening.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a really simple bill, okay? It's actually honoring our local service members and first responders who've made the ultimate sacrifice with their lives, county members. This is an amendment to a current policy that was passed in 2007 that recognized this for military members who were killed in the war on terror. And I think that is over. And it was just for that group of people, military people. So with the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan over, we thought it would be logical to extend the same courtesy to all service members in the county that passed, as well as adding local first responders who fall in the line of duty. I think we all agree, we can never repay these brave people who died protecting our county and our country and our communities. But having worked for the Conway Police Department for more than 3 decades, I personally witnessed people running towards danger and others leaving, not leaving, but they're running towards. We all know those stories. And I think that Legislator Smith and Legislator Joyce, who are also on this resolution, could probably tell us the same thing from their military standpoint. So under this proposed amended policy, we'd just be recognizing the life-giving efforts of every county resident in the military, on the police force, in the fire department, or working EMS members. And I'm happy to take any questions or suggestions that anybody might have.
It's very well said, Ms. Lockhart.
Thank you.
Any questions? Chair, please.
Can you add me?
Please, I'd like to be added as well.
Thank you,
Yep,
Julie.
I'd like to
Thank
be
you.
added.
Is there anyone who would not like to be added to this resolution this evening?
Great, thank you. So we can put it out then? Committee?
I think we can.
I'll
I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Feeney, second, Mr. Bergdorf, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
Well done, Penny.
All right. Item 12
Thank you,
is
everybody.
creating a generative artificial intelligence policy working group to examine creating an Albany County generative artificial intelligence policy. Mr. Collins is here this evening.
Hello, everyone. A little different sitting over here. Your happy faces look a little different on the side of the table. All right, I'm introducing a resolution that would create a working group of municipal and tech professionals to study possible Gen AI applications in our county government. And it would adopt an official county policy in hopes by the end of 2025. Gen AI is here. It's not going anywhere. It's very powerful. I believe the county can leverage it. I believe the county can use it to be more effective. I believe we can use it to help more people more efficiently, but it does come with its harms. This 8-member board, one appointee would be an individual with professional or academic experience with artificial intelligence. 2 members would be recommended by the county's chief information officer. 2 members recommended by labor organizations that represent Albany County employees. 1 member each for the county attorney, the other for human resources, and then the last member would be appointed by the county exec. I truly believe that it's imperative for our government workers, our county workers, our constituents to know how we as a county are going to use AI. It's, like I said, very, very powerful. My hopes would be that we would prepare our workforce, establish an ethical framework, promote policy models, and enable responsible applications. I am by no means an expert. I wouldn't even call me, I'm not an expert in this area. I'm just a farmer from Queens, but I know that this is very important stuff and that the county can use this, but I really believe that it's imperative for us to set up a framework on, potential downfalls. AI hallucinations are extremely scary. There's tons of examples across courts across the country where attorneys are using ChatGPT and they're coming up with fake case law and submitting it with judges' names on it and false precedents. And I don't want the county to get involved with that and ruin our credibility. You could really lose a lot of credibility, but you can really, it's such a powerful tool. I keep on saying that. Here's one instance when asked about the Greek myth of Hercules and the ants. ChatGPT does not know its bounds. It fabricated a story about Hercules and a colony of talking ants. It doesn't exist. It fabricated a story. Then when fact-checked, it challenged the fact-check and said it should be verified with more credible sources. We could really lose a lot of credibility. I believe our workforce and workforce overall is getting a little nervous about computer use. I believe it's our responsibility to calm their fears and calm our constituents' fears and show them that we're going to use this as a tool. So,
Thank you.
Questions?
Mr. Collins, any questions? Mr. Bergdorf.
Wasn't this also sort of generically recommended by the Association of Counties?
Yes, and I have the comprehensive toolkit that they came up with. I have 2 of them for right now, but yeah.
And since the county executive controls this, you've talked to him and he's supportive?
I did speak to him, he was supportive of it.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Cunningham.
So I didn't read the toolkit yet. So this working group and the creation of it is recommended in that toolkit?
It recommends us to set up working groups, absolutely.
And is the working group that you modeled what they are recommending?
Loosely, yeah.
And so when we talk to the county exec, he's going to indicate that this is his preferred way of working to potentially construct a policy around the use of AI?
I will never put words in the county exec, but our conversation was, yes, I looked at it and I support it.
He looked at your resolution and supports it, okay? And this working group would basically meet with county staffing?
Yes.
I mean, is that what is contemplated? I don't think I saw that in here.
More than just county staffing, correct?
It would be the chief information officers, hang on, where are we on? Working with a group of municipal and tech professionals.
Right, but somebody's got to actually do the agendas and the planning and the staff work, and that would be a county function with that working group of experts outside. Is Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, that's what I was suggesting.
And you're suggesting they should make recommendations about the county using AI successfully in county processes? Okay.
Mr. Sagan, if you would.
Yeah, and I think to clarify the county executive's point, I think, while this is all fine and good, I think it's a little bit cart before the horse right now. I think, Pat Alderson, our Chief Information Officer, came to the legislature and discussed the need for a sort of foundational, a general IT policy that applies to not only the county executive departments, but, every branch of the county government, legislature, DA, sheriff. So I think we need a foundational policy for IT purposes before we start delving into the AI specific realm. So by no means I don't think this is a bad thing, bad idea. I think it's just a little bit too soon for this outside group to be dictating to our information services department. I think that is our position, but by no means is this not a conversation that we can have.
Thank you, Cameron. Mr. Collins, would you be willing to withdraw this resolution until we get some IT governance policy from
I'd be willing to
IT?
do that. I would. Look, I want to work. This is important. This isn't a pride issue. This isn't a politics issue. This is important. I did talk to the county exec. He said it looked good. So if we need to do other stuff to make this strong, then I'm fine with that. Absolutely.
Okay.
Look, this is very important stuff and there's a lot of information to it. So we need to go slow. I don't mind that approach at all.
And to be clear, I think I've spoken to Pat on this topic, and he is every level bit of concerned about the use of AI and the need for us to rein it in and make sure that it is regulated. But I think we just need to build that foundational IT governance policy that doesn't just apply to AI, but to every employee. And I think that is something that needs to be voted on by the legislative body, because we could implement our, IT policies for our departments, but it really needs to be for every branch of the county government, so.
Yeah, I will second your sentiments, Mr. Collins, on both the importance of this issue. So I certainly agree with your impetus, for sure. Mr. Purley?
A question for Cameron. Any ideas the time frame of how long it will take to have that foundational policy in place, which is the precursor to?
Yeah, I mean, I know that DIS is working on it currently. I don't know about the timeline. I would like to think that we could have at least a rough draft in the next few months. But I think that is a conversation with the legislature as well. I could follow up with Mr. Alderson and just figure out exactly what that timeline looks like.
I have you, Mr. Grimm, but we'll go to Mr. Borgdorf since he's on the committee first.
Okay, when you were going through the appointments to this, I thought it was pretty clear to me that the county executive would control this whole process between his appointments and his IT representatives. And how many appointments does the county executive have?
He had one appointment.
No, but then there's,
8. All 8.
he has all 8 appointments?
Well, besides
The 2 from labor? His IT director is there. His IT director is going to appoint 2. I mean, I guess I don't understand if we're giving the control of the process to the county executive. I just would have thought that would have been, that's why probably the county executive told you he liked it.
I would agree, but I don't think it is a bad idea to bring Patrick Alderson in here.
Oh, no,
I'm not,
I'm just making an observation that right now, if it's got to be tinkered with, Pat's certainly the guy to do it, but the county executive is not going to personally do this. His lead person's going to be the CIO. I think that's pretty apparent. Who is now a full-fledged department head, or will be, wherever that is in the process. But work with Pat to finalize it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would ask if Pat has been looped in on this, and I do think it's just cart before the horse. You know, I think AI is important, but there are more things happening than AI. You know, cybersecurity, like universal cybersecurity rules and risk assessments for the entire county are frankly more important right now than AI controls. I mean, AI hasn't been completely fleshed out yet. We have no reason to think that, you know, the majority of county employees are using it. But like right now, cybersecurity is far more important, and I think that we all are familiar with what has happened in the past few months related to that. So I think making sure that Pat is comfortable with where they're at in terms of cybersecurity, and then moving on to something a little more complex and higher level than as AI is, I think that is the proper path to take.
Respectfully, totally agree with that. We can't wait on this.
Oh, it's not about waiting.
Cybersecurity, I'm not arguing with you on that. We can't wait on this. It's very important that change it however you need to change it. I'll work with anybody, but we can't put it on the back burner and then say, oh, it's here or something happened. That's my only sentiment.
Sure.
I agree with what you're saying.
So we have Dr. McLaughlin, then Mark Grimm, then Chair Cunningham.
I'm happy that the sponsor is willing to have some additional conversation about it. I agree with you, we don't want to wait, and just see what happens. But I agree that I'm grateful that you are willing to have some additional conversation. But I also want to say that the comment that Mr. Bergdorf made about the county executive having the ultimate control, I don't think that's a bad idea. Because ultimately, and I say that because you're talking about how the county of Albany, Albany County is going to be impacted by AI. So why wouldn't there be some strong voice coming from the county executive? I'm not saying control the situation to the extent that it only goes this way and not that way, but certainly his leadership, or the county executive's leadership, is very important when it comes to this topic. Because if stuff blows up, it blows up for everybody. And who are they gonna be looking at? At the top. So I don't think that's a bad idea. But I look forward to the continuing discussion to get this finalized so that we can move forward. So thank you very much for bringing this forward, because I do agree. It's something we gotta get a handle on, because already be working all around us, and we don't know anything about it. But because I do believe it is working all around us right now.
Mr. Grimm.
Thank you, Chairman. I was at the NISAC conference and they had a session on AI, which is fascinating. And the room was packed, and some of our other members, I think, might have been there. But they already have policies in place, and they were talking about examples of using AI already to help efficiency. They've used an example is the sewage treatment. It's important they know what's in their sewage. They have an AI program that tells what's in the sewage, and they just have one employee monitoring on a screen what's going on from day to day, which can be quite useful. But it may be a good idea to check some other counties, because some other counties not only have the policies, they're using AI today to run the counties more efficiently.
Chair.
Yeah, listen, AI is here. And I work in healthcare, and it's, there's a lot of discussion about ethical uses of AI in healthcare. So you take lots of data, and through AI can figure out how to data mine it and better tailor and target programming services, the delivery system to certain populations. It can also be used for nefarious purposes, health plans, using it as utilization management tools that can diminish services to people. So I like the concept. My only kind of concern is this outwardly kind of created structure the right way for the county to have this conversation. I think that the first person I would sit down and have a long conversation with is probably Pat, to say, how do we better engage and discuss AI from a policy standpoint, and make sure, as an example, that the legislature understands budget implications, staffing, just future kind of ripple effects to AI, the uses of AI, whether it's in, sewage treatment or in social services, in environmental protect, lots of different ways. But I don't know that an outward committee of folks that do not understand how our county department works and the constituencies that we serve, I think that is a question worth exploring. Is that the best construct? Because it can quickly turn into a monthly meeting that is really fascinating and interesting and that doesn't move the needle. Whereas an internal meeting or an internal construct where you have our current IT expert who probably knows a lot more about this than any of us in this room to lead something where, we could invite that Pat in and maybe there are outside experts he's already talking to that are giving him insights. I mean, he's probably plugged into an IT county.
He was at the session, Joanne.
Construct, yeah.
Yeah, he
He's
spoke at the
probably
session.
like 10 steps ahead of us already on this. So my response was more, the topic's great, it's just, is this the best way to do it? Or is this gonna be just another interesting meeting that a group of folks that don't have any connection or understanding about the program services, staffing of Albany County, how it works, whereas internally, someone like Pat and whoever he thinks is kind of a good team to put together is probably going to be much more effective at giving guidance.
Mr. Collins.
I see your point. Nobody's saying Pat wouldn't be appointed to here, number one.
That's not what I said.
Number two, I know, but the county's chief, and you keep on saying outward, it's the county's chief information officer, the county's attorney, the county's human resource member. You could maybe categorize the two members of outward as the labor organizations, which I could see and I could agree on, but I don't think it's as outward as we've made it out to be. And the one is by the county exec. I wouldn't say it's completely outward, maybe the two.
But the two are county employees that
I know, but how
has
do
an
you even
impact
know
on it.
those are the right county employees?
The county attorney?
The county HR
The county
commissioner.
attorney with all this attorney issues?
I'm just saying, why, it seems like it's a backward construct, that you took a nice toolkit and constructed something that, why wouldn't we just sit down with Pat and say, listen, we're interested in this. What would be the best way that would be useful for you, Pat, to figure out how to construct policy and potential discussion? It just seems like it's a one-size-fit-all kind of thing that might produce interesting meetings, but may not be the right approach for Albany County.
Thank you. Mr. Collins, are you still willing to withdraw at this time?
What's that?
Are you still willing to withdraw this resolution at this
Yes,
time?
I believe in this, and if we have to work on this more to strengthen it up, I'm excited to work on it. I'm not gonna stop working on it. I think Pat is the right guy to talk to. I will look forward to working with the exec's office, and let's get it right. Let's get it right, so we need to.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Do we have any other items this evening?
No, there are no further items.
Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Mr. Feeney, second? Second. Mr. Ricardo, second. All in favor? Opposed?
Thank you, appreciate it. Thanks, Jen.